It's becoming more and more apparent that things don't seem to be all sunshine and rainbows over at PlayStation. Things sort of came to a head when, over the last few days, David Jaffe has talked about how Connie Booth is leaving Sony PlayStation. And actually, it sounds like she was fired. Sony actually released an official statement since Jaffe's original video confirming her departure. But Jaffe made a lot of claims in that piece of content that paint a not so bright picture about the current state of PlayStation Studios. In addition to all that, there is a user called Head on the Block who is also talking about how there is some unrest. Now, this user is a Reset Era user who a lot of people haven't been able to confirm the identity of, so I reached out to them and got a comment. Let's talk about what's going on, the timeline, and why I'm starting to wonder if Sony's PlayStation brand is having a very tumultuous period, to say the least. So if you're watching this video by now, you probably know that Connie has left PlayStation, and that came from David Jaffe earlier in the week. Here's a report on Video Game News where they talk about it. Basically, they said longtime PlayStation producer Connie Booth has left Sony. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but basically what David Jaffe said is that she was fired. She wasn't retiring like Jim Ryan has been retiring. And it sort of made me start to question, with all of these reports coming out starting in October, what is going on? So I started taking a look back at a timeline, and some of the more notable things, like I'm not including the console hardware price increase, I'm not including the price increase of PlayStation Plus in this list, but some of the more notable items that I have seen over the last few weeks include the following. So first things first, in April 2022, Jim Ryan announced 10 live service games before March 2026. That was an announcement that the internet didn't particularly like. Then in May 2023, Last of Us Faction release was delayed due to the reassessment of its quality. Then in September 27, 2023, things really kicked into high gear when Jim Ryan announced his retirement. Then we know in October 2023, CFO Totoki was going to take over and start managing things. Well, as soon as October happened, we found out that Last of Us is cutting developers, laying people off, and basically Last of Us Factions is on ice. And then we found out about the Media Molecule layoffs. Basically October 24th, 2023, Media Molecule announced layoffs, cites significant strategic changes internally at the company. And then more recently, we found out that Connie Booth reportedly fired, and colleagues have also been let go. That is according to what David Jaffe has said, and that was on October 28th. So that's just a little bit of a taste of what has transpired over about the last year. And remember, I'm not mentioning that Jim Ryan flew around the world trying to get the Activision deal blocked, which he failed to do. In addition to all that, the console price increase across the world, which, you know, Xbox has also gone ahead and done that, but they have a feather in their cap, so to speak, with the Activision acquisition coming through. Now, where this gets a little bit more interesting is when a Reset Era person who is claiming to have insider info, and just take this with a grain of salt, because this is one person, this could be anybody on Reset Era, but this has been popping up a lot in conversations online. The user goes by Head on the Block, and they say the following in response to a thread about all these studios and how they've been asked to work on games as a service title. Almost every studio you listed here is or was working on an online game, and some were forced to release. Scuttlebutt is Sony is reversing course and using third party to catch up on some IPs. I heard Sega has a hand in an old IP that'll wipe the floor, but again, with things turning around as rumored, it's going to be at least 4 years until some of these changes are seen. Now, I reached out directly to Head on the Block, looking at his post and drawing some correlation. There has been a rumor that Sega is working on a new Wipeout game that I've heard from sources within the industry, and that PlayStation is working with Bandai on a PlayStation 5 game, but those are mostly just rumors and conjecture, so you can take them with a grain of salt. I don't know if it's true that Sony's totally turning things around, especially when Bungie is basically coming in and telling Naughty Dog that Last of Us Factions is on ice. But we have a lot of tumultuous reporting about what is going on internally at the studio. So Jim Ryan is basically out. The CFO, Hiroki Totoki, is now taking over, and all these changes have been hitting just like one after another starting in October. The official quote from Sony about Connie leaving was, "We're thankful for Connie's numerous contributions to the company and wish her the best in future endeavors." But before I tell you what David Jaffe said, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when my content goes live. Thank you so much for watching this far. And if you're already subscribed, hit that like button. So I'm going to paraphrase a lot of what Jaffe said, because it's been a lot of he said, she said on the internet. But basically, he confirmed that Connie was leaving the company. He was the first one to report on it. And Angie Smets from the Horizon team would be taking over. Now, Smets is largely liked by her colleagues and will be handling at least that wing. And that was also reported by Stephen Totilo online, where Smets would be working with Sucker Punch, and Scott Rohde, who will be continuing to work with Insomniac going forward. Now, what's interesting is there's just departure after departure happening at Sony. You got Jim Ryan leaving, you got Connie being booted for whatever reason. And the thing is, people sound really unhappy internally, at least based on Jaffe's remarks. And Jaffe cites two separate sources, who some of which are still at the company and some of which are external, talking about what went down. So we have Last of Us factions, Media Molecule, all of this stuff happening. So whatever is going on at Sony, it's basically the worst possible reaction that they could have had to the Activision deal stopping. They're just kind of wiping the floor with all of these employees. And that's seems like a really bad move, given the fact that they've had this string of successes up until this point. Their console is selling better than it has ever sold before. The Bungie acquisition seems to be profitable for them, and they have Bungie working with the teams to figure out what's working well. The virtuous cycle that Jim Ryan talked about with the movie Gran Turismo being a huge success and actually causing the Gran Turismo game to rise on the sales ranks, according to the report we talked about just a few days ago. But it is very concerning to see October hits and we have these stories happening about Naughty Dog layoffs, Media Molecule doing a restructuring, and Connie Booth leaving, and basically people internally sounding like they're completely fed up with the state of PlayStation. So I don't want PlayStation to mess up a great thing. They have a lot of awesome IP, and it just seems like they're almost panicking and trying to figure out what they do from here, when if they would have just made some subtle adjustments, they could have set themselves up for success, in my opinion. But time's going to tell how all of this shakes out. I just kind of wanted to lay out all of this news that we have been hearing about the PlayStation brand and why it's becoming more and more concerning to me about where they are at today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here. I'm trying to take an analytical look at like what the heck is going on, because to this point, they have had some amazing games this year. They just had Spider-Man 2, which is being celebrated. Earlier in the year, they have another Game of the Year contender exclusive to the console with Final Fantasy 16. You know, they have more content coming for Final Fantasy 7 in the near future, and they've had a pretty good cadence in terms of releases. So to hear all of this major shakeup at the company, it's concerning to say the least. You know, meanwhile, you have Microsoft over here doing subtle restructuring and just setting themselves up to stop making mistakes. I feel like Sony is setting themselves up to start making more mistakes. And it's like, when the Activision thing happened, I said, history is going to repeat itself. Sony is going to start messing up again, and then Xbox will hit their stride, and then, you know, maybe in 5 years or whatever, we'll come full circle again, and then, you know, Xbox will start to falter, and Sony will start doing their thing a little bit differently. But what I would like to happen is to see both companies succeed, both companies firing on all cylinders, and not doubting decisions that they put into place, and then doing these massive sweeping restructures. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell in the comments, or hit that bell to know when my content goes live. Hit that like button if you like my content, just to help the algorithm, you know. Thank you so much to the members for supporting this type of content. Yeah, it sure is strange. I do have to wonder if this is a larger industry issue that is just really starting to hit the Sony branch. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and check out my previous video here where I actually talk about the Microsoft restructure, which seems to be a positive one. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you for the next one.